Hello. We are very fortunate today to have Mr. Abdul Zahar, the owner of Oriental Rugs in Mill Village in Sudbury. And he's going to tell, he's comes to the U.S. by a very circuitous route. He was born in Afghanistan, spent his youth there, spent some time in Pakistan, then to New York City, and in 1999 arrived in Sudbury. And he is a member of the Turkoman tribe and represents a family history of rug making and distribution that goes many generations back. And he's going to tell us something about the making of these rugs, the many steps that go into that production, and also tell us the history, the historic cultural factors that go into the designs. So we'll be experiencing woven history today, as he expressed it to the local paper, and that represents a culture that goes back many thousands of years. So we welcome Mr. Abdul Zahar.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. They're members of Sudbury Historical Society, and they're members of Goodnow Library. They're community members and friends. Good afternoon, and Happy New Year. I'm very glad to be here this afternoon as a newcomer, as a new member of this great community, and talk about tribal rugs. That has been part of my tradition, my tribe's tradition, for hundreds of years. Before I go into discussion of rugs, I would like to thank Mr. Lee Swanson of Sudbury Historical Society for offering me this opportunity to be here today, and Mrs. Sheila for introducing me to you today and encouraging my knowledge and my information about the historical values of Sudbury. And I would also like to thank Mrs. Carol of Sudbury Town Crier for publishing a very nice, wonderful article about my story and my tribe's tradition. Today I would like to talk about tribal rugs in general and that of Turkmens in particulars. And I would like to talk about the traditional and cultural values of tribal rugs to Turkmens and evolution of designs. And also, I will try to talk about today's rugs. In order to do that, I'm trying to share my ideas with you to divide today's rugs into 4 different categories that will hopefully make it easier for you to decide about rugs that you want to put in on your floors. So, tribal rugs, when we talk about Oriental rugs, we are basically talking about tribal rugs. The tribal rugs were basically the creation of, the weaving creation of those nomads that were basically made for their livings. They would make them for themselves, like to have something warm on their floors, to have something warm for their animals, and kilims, that we call kilims, that is woven rugs, were the initial steps into getting into pile rugs. Initial rugs, in the beginning, rugs didn't have any design. So they would make them without any designs. But later on, by the passage of time, things improved. And of course, the situation and the circumstances of the region and the circumstances in which the rugs were made were changed. So they came up with designs. And the initial, in the beginning, designs, like I will point this rug here with funky designs without any design in the center, and some funky design in the corners were the first. In the meantime, this is a new rug. It's a reproduction of a very old piece, but the reason having this one here today for you is to tell you that in the beginning, rugs were made like this without designs, and the color combination here are, you can see changes of colors that we call airbrushes, and later on they would make animals like this, animal figures, and with different designs in the borders, in the borders and central field. So, in Turkmen traditions, which is an interesting aspect for me because I am part of the Turkmen community in northern Afghanistan also, and lived in Pakistan for a while. In Turkmen tradition, carpets were made for different purposes, different reasons. They would make rugs for their cultural needs, for traditional needs. They would make cushions, storage bags that we call chuwals, comb and mirror bags, saddle covers, decoration pieces to decorate camel, decoration pieces and containers for bridal yurt, decoration pieces to decorate camels that carries the Turkmen bride. By the way, it's an interesting part of it that camels were used as limousines of today's tradition. So rugs making became part of tradition in the old days. The more things improved, the more it became part of the tradition. And designs and colors, I think in creating designs and colors, there were expressions, impressions, desires, belief, and significations were involved. Cartoons to express their expressions, figures of something to express their impression, symbols of something to represent their feelings, love, affection. We have a very recent example of recent history. This rug here is representing the feelings of people, the Afghan refugees. This rug here has got tanks, helicopters, and a machine gun here. That was made by Afghan refugees, most of them without knowing what was going on in Afghanistan and what was behind this. They would like to, they just wanted to express their feelings about the destructive machine guns and the war machines. So it's a feeling. It's really hard to understand what was behind of each design because it's more personal in tribal life. It is something really hard to understand because somebody wanted to make something based on her or his feelings or love affection. Like this one, they just try to represent that these are the machines that destructed their lives, their homes, or their loved ones. So it's the same thing, not always for the sad reasons. I'm giving you an example of sad reasons here, but many of the designs were made for happy reasons also, for weddings. Turkmens would make rugs for weddings. There are marriage designs that would be made only for the marriage. Like here I have an example. These two pieces here. These two pieces here are supposed to be the marriage cushion covers that we call chual. You can notice two different designs in the border of these two pieces. They are made in the two different houses. One was supposed to be made in the bride's house, and the other one supposed to be made in the groom's house. They tried to make it exactly the same, but since they were made in two different houses, so you can see some difference, and especially if they are made, and if it was an intermarriage of two different tribes, obviously the other tribe would try to have symbols of their own traditions or traditional designs. So this one here is an old saruk design. I believe that is this right one is, I believe that is saruk, and the other one has got exactly the same design in the center. But here, back here, this border here is representing more Yamut tribe of Turkmen. So I think maybe this was made in the bride's home with some Yamut design. Maybe the girl was from Yamut tribe and the groom was belonging from the Saruk tribe. So it's like, it's a marriage design. And there are rugs made in just like a half. When we fold half of the rug and the half of the design, and when they get married, they would join it together and sew it together. It will stay there for a long time as a part of their, it's something very, very special for them. So, and also this one here, this is a tent band. Like I told you, that it's a tribal society living in the tents and decorating tents with different weavings. This would hold the whole tent. It's a band. It's just like used as a belt for the tent. This one here is like 51 feet long, but normally they are 50 feet or 45 feet long, depending on the size of or it depends on the economical situation of the families also. Some of them would make bigger tents or bigger yurt, and some of them would make smaller things. So this one is an antique piece from belonging to the Yamut tribe of Turkmens. And would also like to talk about rugs that were newly made. And this one here, for example, is a very fine quality rug made in northern part of Afghanistan. And the design on this one is a teke design, but known as Bukhara. Design's name changed time by time, and the significance of colors gained and lost their importance time by time due to the changes in the situation and circumstances. Sometimes designs were named after the tribe they made, and sometimes designs were named after the name of the place that was marketed. Like this one, Bukhara. Bukhara is a city in northwestern Uzbekistan, but that city served as a capital city for Uzbek Khanates for a long time. And most of the rugs made in the surrounding regions, made by Turkmens or Kazakhs or Kyrgyzs, were marketed in Bukhara. So many people know this design as Bukhara design. And now we have rugs made in Pakistan, even in Iran, called Bukhara designs. But basically this design is a teke design. And teke themselves would call it, sometimes the tribe they make them. Somebody would name it after the name of the tribe, but some other people will name it because it was marketed there or purchased there. But the tribe themselves would name it something else. They call this one camel feet. Normally it's bigger, but looks like a camel feet. And we have a bigger design, that our Sari tribe would call it elephant foot. Looks like big figures. This is called camel foot also. Unfortunately, we don't have any of those elephant foot design, but they would call it elephant foot design because the figure looks like more elephant. And sometimes you can see figures of jewelries in the designs that will represent their tradition and their feelings. And I have my daughter today, the way a Turkmen girls would dress and the way their women would dress. And actually, we try to make the atmosphere more tribal society today, but we hang some rugs. But for this lively party, I wish we had. So, it would be like this. Thank you so much. And this is good, but unfortunately, we don't have any traditional dress for her, so it's more clothes. But this is how they would dress, and sometimes they make designs on their rugs like these things here. So we call them jewelry designs. And hats also. This hat is embroidered, and so you can see designs of rugs in it too. So it's a complete history of tradition for those designs. Yeah, sure.
How many people are working on, say, one of those rugs, the wedding rug? Is the whole family doing it?
Well, it's an interesting question. Sometimes not whole family. Basically, the bride herself would make it something special. This particular piece would be made by the bride herself, and the other one would be made by the mother or the family members of the groom. One person working on it, especially on that kind of size. Only one person needs space. In bigger rugs, there are normally 2 or 3 persons. It depends.
How does she know what designs to put there? Does she have a pattern to go by?
Well, it's mostly of these designs are, since it's part of their tradition, they would make it directly from their memory. They remember this is a design particularly for themselves. But the little differences, like you see in this one here, a little difference is I just described that she could have been or he could have been from different tribes, so he put a little of different designs here. Then this one, they are supposed to be same, but well, they are never exactly the same because they are, in tribal society, then everything would be made directly from, designs would be coming directly from their memories. So you can see mistakes, a lot of mistakes. You can see changes of colors. If they are, no, unfortunately, many of those weavers would not read or write. So that's one of the factors. They wanted to express their feelings by figures, by designs. Like this one here, if they would write a good book, they would have written a good book about what they have seen, but rather they did this one. So it's been used as a book also for some of those peasants and tribal nomads, whether in Afghanistan or in Pakistan or back in Central Asia.
How many people would have worked on that large rug?
I think and normally in this size, there's a space. This much space is for one person up to here, and then maybe another person here, and normally 3 or 4 people would make it, would work on it, but not necessarily. Sometimes 2 people can work on it too. But they keep, one interesting part, they keep changing their places. She would move here and he would move here sometimes in order to make the nodding numbers the same. On this rug, in this loom here, we have close to 400 numbers of warps here. And one of my friends worked on it for 7 years, started in 1992. He didn't work on it full time. So it's something he just wanted to make. And this design here is his own. It's not a design coming from somewhere. He just wanted to have this little thing here and this border here, and the colors were picked up by himself also. Normally, this kind of rugs and that kind of number, 360 close to 400 warps, would make this one close to 400 knots in the square inches. So that's pretty good quality. So that would take, this is 3 by 5, that would take, if one works on it 5 hours a day, it would take maybe close to 4 months. Well, he didn't work on it, so it has been. Yeah, well, we have, this has got 2 different knots. Well, it's more personal. He just wanted maybe to play with it. I don't know. He used different knots for the borders and different knots for the central part. Well, basically, we have 2 different kinds of knots. Asymmetrical knots and symmetrical knots. Asymmetrical knots is known as Persian knots, and symmetrical is more called Turkish knot. Or back in Pakistan, we call it double knot and single knots also. It's known as double knots with double wefts and single knot with single wefts. It's knotted tight on the warp, and just like rose. The wool would be coming as rose knots. And the back of this you can see the knots on it. And asymmetrical knots, you can see one knot. Well, there are two knots, but one is up and down, so you could see only one knot from it, but basically there are two knots in it. So that's why we call it double, so each knot would be counted double. I would like to also make it easier to, like I said, dividing rugs into 4 or 3 different categories just to make it easier. Some people, I mean, I've seen people saying it's too difficult, it's a huge study, it's a huge field to go, it's confusing. There are a lot of books written about rugs. It's confusing for some people who don't know much about rugs and design. It's complicating. Even I'm a Turkmen. My family has been weaving rugs maybe for hundreds of years. It's still confusing for me to understand some designs. But to make it easier, I would like to divide today's rugs into 4 different categories. The first is the traditional rugs that I just talked about. Tribal, part of tradition, made strictly for themselves, for the people who made them, part of tradition, part of culture. And those are the rugs, I would say, with more originality. And one important aspect of that is the weavers had more freedom of execution. I mean, they would make whatever came in their mind. Unlike like factory rugs or programmed rugs, that there are designers involved, directors involved, artists involved. The weavers would follow strictly the direction given to him or her to make certain designs. And the other part of the number 2nd category, I would like to call it the cottage rugs. Made in the villages, in the cottage, in the homes of people, but the material would be given by some traders to make rugs for certain tribe or certain company. So those are one categories. So traditional and cottage, and we have factory or workshop rugs like this one here. This is a very nice, perfect rug made in China, and this is a workshop rugs. And workshop normally would have 100 looms or more looms, and skilled weavers hired, and they are, like I said, they are designers and artists would draw the designs and combination of colors according to the demand of the market, wherever they are marketing. And normally they make different designs according to the market of Europe, make rugs for United States according to the taste of people here. So nothing is wrong with this one. It's a perfect rug, but unlike the traditional rugs, there is not much freedom of execution for the weavers. So it's the programmed one. You would find the same rug in different sizes, and starting from 3 by 5 to 15 by 18. So, I mean, it's just like more. I mean, normally you can see a signature or sign of the company who would, order to make that one. And then we have the old-fashioned rugs, which is this one right here. It's one of my own production in Pakistan. This rug is made of vegetable dye and handspun wool, and in a Kazakh design. We tried to make everything in the old-fashioned way. It is still made for market, though. I mean, it's not part of the tradition, but it is made more in the old-fashioned way, like using vegetable dyes and handspun wool. You can walk and see it later on. It's more like the oldest pieces, the antique pieces. The idea of making those pieces originally was the cultural survival, and also to fill the demand of old antique rugs that are either not available in big numbers or very expensive to afford. So these are to fill the demand of antique pieces and the original. Please.
But speaking about cultural survival, what about the fact that the Tamils now are in charge of Afghanistan? Are any of these rugs in jeopardy of being lost forever?
Some of the designs, and at least the skill and the using of old methods in obtaining colors and making them more in traditional ways. There were influences on designs. So some of designs were, like in danger, but we thought maybe we were losing them because of the influences. When we talk about influences, all of the designs and patterns you see in today's rugs are influenced by some sort of art forms. Sometimes religious influences, like you see in this rug here. This is a prayer rug with a writing, Islamic writing over there, and this is the place they would pray. And it's an old piece, maybe 100 or plus years old. But so you can see that there were influences I don't think in the beginning there were. Some people would say that designs were made based on the ideas or religious influences are there, but in the beginning rugs were made for lives, for living. So I don't think they were like when we are talking about. I mean, the oldest rugs that was pictured and found was more. It's estimated to be close to 2,000 years old, and the people living there were not didn't know much about religion at that time, so they were making rugs for themselves, for living, and designs were as more the impression that they would get from. It's like geometric designs for Turkmens, and you can see designs like this one here, the goats. This is what they lived with. This is what they've seen for long years. So they would make those to represent something. Or the people living close to the lakes, they would make something look like a lake, and the people living in the greener areas would make more floral design. So, well, there were influences of religion on it, just like I pointed that small piece over there. But basically, they were not. But now you can see influences of religion, influences of other things, and people are moving in different countries, and they're getting different influences and financial influences. More people are making rugs today for market to make money than making for themselves. So we are losing the originality in those rugs. We are losing something they would make from their inside to express something. Rather, they would be made for market, for the demand of market somewhere. So that's the important part of it. And the colors, you say there are different colors in it. The colors were signified normally. I know of Turkmens, red was signified. It changed also time by time due to the changes in the conditions and situations in the areas and regions. Red was signified as alive, because anything that's alive would have blood or something. It's maybe coming from that idea. But now it is signified as a memory of their lost members or loved ones in the wars. So it's completely, we are talking about death and life here, so it's changing that much. And green is signified as a color that is indicating spring, and nice grasses, trees, and welcome to spring, things like that. But now it is signified in the Islamic world as a holy color for Muslims. So I believe, that is an influence came later on. And blue, for unknown reasons, were signified as happiness. So in Turkmen rugs, a rug could be just like a book for you, if you are familiar with the designs and each point of it. It's really hard to understand each point of designs, but you can guess where it was made, and you can also guess why it was made. Like this one here, we can guess why it was made, and those we can guess why. But the details of designs and why this particular design is there, it's really hard to say. It's feelings of somebody. It's the impression. So that's pretty much about today's rug. So if you like, I mean, to make it, like I said, to make it easier to decide about rugs, I would say if you want to go more for history, more for, if you're interested in the culture or tradition of somebody, then you may want to go for tribal rugs. But one thing in tribal rugs is that they are never perfect. You will see irregularities in designs, sometimes in the sizes, shapes of them, and funny designs or funky designs in some of them. Like this one here, it's a personal collection of my friend, and she believed that this rug was made, this part of the rug was made by her daughter, and this part of the rug was made by the mother. So you can see, and this bird is missing the head, and some part of it has got different design. And sometimes you can see different designs in one rug. I mean, whatever came their mind that time, they would follow that. Or maybe they had a better impression in the beginning and then had a little sad impression in the middle, and then again something happened. I mean, it takes a long time, maybe 6-7 months, or sometimes 1 year. So situation with things. This rug is dated. It's 51 years old, so it's not too long. That I mean, we're not talking about 1,000 years. Still, traditional values are great, and among those tribal nomads in Afghanistan, Iran. This is we believe that's made in northwestern part of Iran. So still, we have traditional pieces. The pieces made for those tribes for themselves. So we are not losing them. The cultural survivor you asked me was that. So we thought maybe we are losing them. It's discontinued almost. So we could make them alive again. In the meantime, it's good, and many people are interested in that. We had a great response for those new rugs. This is one example of them, and we are currently working on over 200 designs. This is one Kazakh design, and we have a Caucasian center in it here, but the borders are Caucasian. It's more Kazakh. It's the real thing I'm talking about is the quality of wool and the quality of dyes. It's totally vegetable dye and hand-spun wool. So that is something. If we go for this one, we still have some sort of freedom of execution for the weavers, and also we have the quality of dye and wool, but they are supposed to be copies of old pieces, so they are not made perfect as this one here, made in a workshop. So if you want to go for perfection, for fineness, then you may want to go for workshop rugs. If you want to go for originality, then you may want to go for tribal rugs. So dividing them into different categories, I try to make it a little bit easier to understand, to look at them, to make it easier for you to look at them from different point of views. Those are bags, the wall bags we call chewals. It is also a marriage type of, normally made for the dowry purposes. There's two pieces, we just joined them together to hang over there. As they're missing the back side, they are the bags to store belongings for the bride and grooms. And we are missing the back side, but we have back cover on these pieces. So you can walk and think. Look at that later on. And this is what we call gabas in the old days and the beginning of evolution of designs. First they made without designs, and then later on they improved. They thought maybe putting different colors in it. They didn't have any colors at that time, but maybe they used different wool, darker wool with lighter wool in order to create. So somebody thought maybe it's a good idea to have some sort of designs in them. So that is the history of the initial history of the rug making, and today we have so many different kind of rugs from different parts of the world. So
you mentioned vegetable dyes. How does one tell without you being around whether we have vegetable dyes or
That is, it's a little bit hard to explain, but one thing that will help you would be, and if it is hand-spun wool and vegetable dyes, you can normally see our brushes, the changes of colors in them, because the way of the way the hand-spun wool or the way the wool absorbs the vegetable dyes is always different than the chemical dyes that is made, and especially if the chemical dyes with the exact measurement things, like this one made in China with, you can't see any airbrush in that one, but in this one you can see our brushes, like the changes of colors, and also on that one, that's vegetable dye. You can, when you get close, you can see the changes of colors because of the the way the wool absorbs the vegetable dyes is different.
Chemical dyes in rugs?
Yes, I do. Yeah. And actually, this one here, this little one here, is made in my town. It's a traditional design, made in a traditional way, but with the German dye, which is chemical dye. Nothing is wrong about that, but it's just, again, we are talking about losing or having the originality of, yes.
So just to clarify on that, I think so you could actually have toggle rugs that are either vegetable dye or.
Or, yes, sure. Well, in Afghanistan, chemical dyes were introduced like 50, 60 years ago, so it's not too far. So any rug, I would say, made before 1930s or 1940s could be, I could be sure that could be vegetable dye. But after that, you can find mixture of chemical dyes also. So the idea of reproduction of old pieces and making them in old-fashioned way is just to make those old tradition alive again. Yeah. Yeah, you could be done, and you can see a lot of chemical dyes in traditional pieces also, but in the old ways. But in different countries, in Iran, things improved a little bit faster, so you can see chemical dyes in pretty old pieces also.
Could you point out on your map what areas have traditional rug weaving?
When we talk about Turkmens, we are talking about this area here, Bujnord, from northeastern part of Iran, and getting into Turkmenistan here, and the long strip of Afghanistan in northern Afghanistan, and isolated areas in western Afghanistan. So these are the Turkmen tribal areas. But we have tribal nomadic people in western Afghanistan that are called Baluchis, and they make rugs also. I have one piece behind. I cannot point it from here. Those are made by Baluchis. Those are interesting pieces also, and they are still making. Baluchis are still nomads, and they keep. It's really hard to say where exactly a Baluchi piece is made, and because they move in 3-4 different countries. So we could only guess from the influences you can see in the patterns. Like if it is more close to Afghan designs, more geometric, we could guess that it should be made in Afghanistan by Baluchis. Or if it has got a little more floral design, we could see more influence of Iranian design, so we could guess. But they have their own designs also, but you can still feel, you can also feel the quality of wool if you are expert about that, and the dyeing process, the dyeing feeling, the feelings of the wool, and also dye quality. So there are several things that will help you to understand what will be the main factors to determine where this rug should be made and or by which tribe. And also we have Uzbeks used to make rugs here in Uzbekistan and in Kazakhstan. This part and in the bigger part of Kazakhstan also. But we get, we got beautiful rugs from Caucasus, from Armenians, from the old days, called Caucasian designs. It's hard to say now, whether it's made by Armenian or Azerbaijanis, because they are living in the same areas. So regardless of background, sometimes you can see pretty much close designs made by different tribes. But so far, according to Mr. P.R.J., an author of a book called Oriental Carpet Designs, the Turkmen designs are the closest to those of 500 years or more. I'm not claiming that. Just being a Turkmen, I'm just giving the reference of the book. It's called Oriental Rugs, Oriental Carpet Designs. So, and I could believe that because of the way Turkmens lived. The way of life didn't change in them for a long time. So their lifestyle didn't change, regardless of the areas they moved. So I would say they are slow moving or maybe not accepting others. So you can see very, very close designs to those of 500 years or at least 200-300 years old designs in Turkmens. Like this design. This design is an old design, the elephant foot design, which we call Demircan also. That is the oldest Turkmen design from almost 1,000 years ago.
Explain what a yurt is.
Okay. Yurt is a tent. It's made of wooden. It's a wooden house, a wooden tent that would be covered by felts and decorated by woven pieces and bound by this strip of tent band. And Turkmens, but nomads also. So yurt is not a built house. So you can easily build them and then put them back on the camels and move. So this is where they lived for centuries, and I've seen them in the recent histories in northern Afghanistan, Turkmens living in the tents, and at least using them for traditional reasons in the weddings, with a lot of decoration pieces around.
Exterior was felt, waterproof.
Yes.
Interior,
Rugs hanging. I mean, these pieces would hang. These pieces would hang, one on the right side, one on the left side. And there's a place for guests normally facing the door, and there would be special design for the door also that we call hachlu, if you heard of that, or parda. That is the entrance rug for the yurt, and specially made for they didn't have doors, maybe gates for a long time, and they would use rugs for the door and for the main entrance and also for the inside, right side, and then decorated with many bags, salt bags, and to store salt, and spoon bags, things like that. And another thing, one of the dowry design or marriage design is this one here. And this design, you can see, this represents a dining table here. With a spoon, 2 big spoons here, and 4 small spoons right here. This represents the dining table. It's a dowry. It's a dowry piece, normally made by the families of the either bride or the groom. This design is not a marriage design. It's a newer design called Bashiri because it's made by Bashiri tribe of Turkmens, but Bashiris themselves would call it Almagol. That means apple blossom or apple flower. You can see a little apple blossom or apple flower here. This one is again same as this one, a bag. It's used to be a chwal. It's a bag to store belongings, and it's from the Zahar tribe of Turkmens again. This is, I believe, much older than the other ones here. This is missing the back side. We only have the front side. And these are the little bags to store their belongings, like maybe spoons and dishes and things. And this little one here is supposed to be a wall bank. It's missing the backside. It's from the Yamut, most probably from the Yamut tribe of people. It's over. This is from my father's collection. And the other one, normally they have tassels like these, but this one is missing that. So these are all decoration pieces to decorate actually to decorate the bridal yurt, but then became part of their lives to store things. And there are many pieces made for camels also. Well, you can see green and very, very more than 200 years old pieces that are still available in the market. Green is something that came from, the impression of getting green grasses. So I think I've seen green and read in the books that has been there for a long time. And there were greens in the pieces more than 600-700 years ago or 800,000 years ago. And Islam and some part of that area came during the 8th or 9th century. So, yeah, maybe for some people, but basically not. I mean, the colors, they needed some sort of colors for their lives, so they made it without any influence. It's just a matter of liking something. It's more personal. But sure, there were influences, just like I said, there were influences of religion and other art forms in the design and colors later on, and it changed time by time. So maybe he was right about his area.
The Afghan rugs that we have here in this country, are they coming from Afghanistan or from Pakistan? I mean, are the rug weaver or rug makers still there in Afghanistan?
Well, as you know, it has been like more than 20 years, maybe 21 years, that there is war in Afghanistan, followed by the Russian invasion, and then later on the destruction of the functional groups there. So life became difficult for many of the weavers, and eventually we were short of caracal sheeps that we used to use wool of. So it hasn't been in a big number. So we have like 3-4 million, close to 4 million that was said, but I would say like 3 million Afghan refugees in Pakistan that are making rugs. And that rug I pointed out was made by Afghan refugees in Pakistan also. So most of them are coming through Pakistan, but there were rugs directly came to the country 20 years ago. There's no doubt about that. But Afghanistan hasn't been a great place for mass production of rugs. It's a tribal society, and people would make rugs for themselves rather than for market. But there were workshop rugs in Kabul and some other big cities also. So I don't want to say there was no any single rug made for market in Afghanistan. There was, but not like Iran, the mass production for Western market. So most of the rugs coming, even the original pieces made in Afghanistan were transported by those refugees into different countries, either Iran, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, or Pakistan, and somehow they sold their rugs to some merchants and exported from those countries, or we got them in this country through different countries. Oh yeah, well, yeah, I left the country. I was born in northern Afghanistan, and I left the country almost 15-16 years ago, and lived in Pakistan as a refugee. So I was one of those Afghan refugees in Pakistan also. In '92, after the collapse of regime in Afghanistan and establishment of so-called Mujahideen government in Afghanistan, I was invited to work for United Nations for a short period of time. Well, I worked for a short period of time, but was invited to work there, and I was excited to work there to be part of United Nations for the resettlement, for the returnees, the refugees that we had in neighboring countries, and to settle them there. But things changed, and we got 100,000 refugees from Tajikistan in Afghanistan at that time, while we had more than 5 million refugees in the other countries. And it was difficult for me to carry that job because of the political situation. Each area was controlled by different groups, and we were based somewhere, and we blamed suddenly for helping the other groups, the other areas. So it was difficult for me, also because of being part of the minority Turkmen ethnic group. So I blamed being an agent, I blamed for working or helping other groups. So it was difficult, so I gave up and stopped working in Afghanistan. So I came back to my business. I'm the third generation. My grandfather started this. Or before that, it was part of our tradition to weave rugs. But the business was started by my grandfather somewhere in Central Asia. Oh, by the way, my background, I was born in Afghanistan, but my father was an immigrant of Central Asia from Turkmenistan. And they escaped the country during the Bolshevik Revolution, and those areas came to Afghanistan. And then I was born in Afghanistan, came to Pakistan, and my children came here. So it has been a long story since 1920s till now. So I'm happy here. Thank you so much. That was one factor that I was a little bit embarrassed. I hope that everybody could understand me. I went to my primary school in my town in Kunduz in northern Afghanistan, and went to high school in Kabul, in the capital city of Afghanistan, and then I went to private schools in Pakistan also. Yes, I took English classes. So far I speak like 6 different local languages, the areas, including English. Mainly I import the rugs that are made in Pakistan by Afghan refugees, and I still have family members in Pakistan taking care of the production we have. That we call, this one is a production we named after Kazakh. That's a Kazakh collection. It's a design from Kazakhs, so we just named it Kazakh collection, not necessarily always Kazakh design. We have Caucasian designs and Armenian designs. We have some Iranian designs also. Mainly we are focusing on forgotten designs and just reproducing the old, very old forgotten designs. Yes.
Your family is still involved in such so that you have family members every step of the rug production?
Yeah, I have my 3 brothers involved in rug business, taking care of the production in Pakistan. Yes, well, my family, my wife could weave rugs. She's not doing it anymore here, but she did last year, a small piece, and didn't bring it here. But I have family members weaving, like my sisters, and some other family members that are part of the project we have in Pakistan. Initially started for cultural survival, but now we are still keeping it that way, reproducing old design. Well, it's happening because of the demand of market. Some people like to have thicker rugs, and some people not. So they are in factories. They are trying every different rugs, and then they want to test the market, which one is going there. But basically, it's based on the number of knots. The finer the knots are, the clearer the designs are, and you can cut the pile shorter. And the bigger the knots are, you cannot cut them shorter because you can see the knots from the front of the carpet. So it's more based on the number of knots, the fineness of the knots in the rugs. Well, yeah, I'll give you a logic reason for it. The more the rug is thicker, the more the pile is. I mean, that's the pile is longer. The more the pile is longer, the pile is going to move, so you cannot see the design very clear. First of all, and yeah, but it's good also in some part if you like to have thicker and more comfortable walk on it with thicker rugs. It could be a good idea, and also it's not going to wear out very soon, maybe not in 200 years. So, well, normally it's the medium size is good, not too thick, and sometimes we tried to do both of them, but very short is not. I mean, it's not going to last too long because the pile is shorter. It's going. I mean, especially if you use it in a high traffic area, it's going to wear out very, very soon. But again, if it is a finer piece, very fine quality, fine knots in it, so you could cut it short and still be good enough for the pile.
Sarah, what does the quality of the wool have to do with the rug?
Well, that is a very important. I'm sorry I didn't talk about it. It's a very important aspect in looking at the rugs. We have so many different grades of wool available today. The handspun wool we are using not because of being the finest quality wool, while we get very, very fine quality wool from New Zealand and Australia. That's called merino. It's very fine quality wool also. But we're using them because our people are more used to use those kind of wool, and the absorption of color, vegetable dyes and those kind of wool is better. But Australian merino wool is very fine wool also. But some of the wools that we get in Pakistan and some other countries are machine spun. What happens with machine spun is that the fibers are not long, it breaks. So, and that makes a lot of difference. If it is finer quality wool, that is always better. But it depends on, in hand spun wool or even Australian wool, it depends on the part of the sheep also. The finest wool would be obtained from the shoulder part of the lamb, and depends on the climate also. If the sheep are living in a greener areas, healthier sheep would provide better wool. And also summer wool is not very supposed to be as good as the winter wool, because in winter sheep would get woolly and longer and finer wool than in hot summers and some part of those regions. Wool are not very long lasting. It breaks because, I don't know, it gets burned or something. So it depends on the part of the lamb. It depends on the climate. It depends on the way it was spun. So you can feel that more or less. It's really hard to say exactly this is from the shoulder part of the sheep or lambs. and it's also hard to say exactly. It's just like Baluchi rugs to say where exactly they are from. So it's really hard to say that, but you can always feel. And much better than the others. Well, maybe it's we are experiencing it because our viewers are those Turkmens from northern Afghanistan. They've done that process for years, so they are more familiar with the way they are doing it with vegetable dyes. But we experience some sort of wool, machine spun wool. I don't know that they get oily or something. The absorption of vegetable dyes was not satisfactory as in some hand spun wool. So, and also sheeps, we have different kind of sheeps, Astrakhan, Karakol, and Arabic sheeps. So depends on those also. In some old pieces, you can see goat hair in the selvages used for some reasons, or camel hair. They cannot dye it. They have to use the camel hair or camel wool in its natural colors. You can see that in brown. And not this one, but you can see in some old pieces, if they have this color, that's normally undyed camel hair or camel wool. Also, gray colors are supposed to be the gray wool in its natural colors, and blacks and whites. So the colors we are getting from vegetables, obtaining from vegetables, are the greens for which we use. We never had a bright green from the vegetable, so it's always bluish green or something like that. It's mixed in yellowish green that we obtain by mixing saffron with indigo. And blue is always from indigo. And we use cherry wood and pomegranate skin for reds, different kind of reds and browns, and black wool in its natural color for the blacks. And for the fringes, we use the grey wool in its natural colors, and sometimes cotton. Well, all of them fade a little bit by the passage of time, but they are supposed to be more faster. Vegetable dyes are more faster. It doesn't mean that chemical dyes are bad. They are very good also. But one interesting part of the vegetable dyes is they change its colors by passage of time, but they turn into a beautiful, something that is, that is given by time. So that's the beauty of that. And also indigo, we noticed that gives more life to the wool. I've noticed in very old rugs that the undyed part, where the white is or the gray, the undyed wool used for certain part is worn out faster than the others, and blue is always there. So we thought maybe blue is making it, the indigo is making it more stronger to last more. Well, the traditional pieces, the combination, I would say, in general, depends on the rug. I mean, I have rugs that are traditional, made by somebody for themselves in the yurts, and there are rugs that are made in the cottage. The material was provided by somebody, but still made in the villages, in the yurts or muddy houses in the villages. But the rugs that are made in the workshops are made in the nice buildings with designers and artists involved in it. So this is one example of that. This one here. Sorry. This one is the knife to cut the pile. As soon as we make these knots here, we'd cut them first, shagir, and then after we finish the rug, we would recut the pile evenly afterwards. And some people would cut the pile after some knots, as soon as they make this much area, a few inches area, and then cut them evenly. But normally they cut them like this. So this area is the part that was woven and then cut by this knife. And then we have, after each knot, we have wefts going through this way, and then we comb them by this comb to make the knots tighter, get them closer to each other. And we have shuttle here. Shuttle here to bring the wefts up and down, and then this thing will go with each knot. And we have two different knives. In Turkmens, we used to have this knot, and the knots would be tied by their fingers. But in Iran, they use this one to make knots with this little hook getting into it. This is a sophisticated loom. It's a modern loom. It's more Tabrizi kind of loom, but we have horizontal loom in Afghanistan and many parts of Asia. They would sit on it and weave it until they finish it, and sometimes they didn't have even an adjuster. This one has got an adjuster. You can pull and make it, and you can even turn it and have a bench here and sit comfortably and move the rug according to your to the size of the bench, or the person would feel comfortable to make it. Yeah, you can also make it a little bit higher. And this is again those little bags. And I think that's pretty much about what I wanted to tell. It's a long story. We could talk about it all day, but I wanted to make it.
We've whetted our appetites to learn more, and certainly visit the shop. The only problem is you will want to buy everything in the shop. I'm so sure you will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you. Thank you. Well, at the end. Thank you very much. Well, at the end, I would like to thank you all. We all work all working days, and thank you for all for sparing your valuable time to be here for me and sharing my ideas. And I had a wonderful afternoon. I hope that you enjoyed it. At least it was not too boring. Anyway, thank you very much, and have a very, very happy New Year again. Thanks.